This is my father, GIlden, and he's going to talk about his experience with the one and only Joe Pilates.
Well, in 1922, a man by the name of Frederick Rand Rogers, his family was very famous, I think, for typewriters, was doing the relationship of physical fitness to mental mentality. As you increased physical fitness, you increase mental mentality. So in my chiropractic practice for retarded children, I was taking them through physical fitness and trying to relate, like Frederick Rand Rogers did, improvement in concentration and intelligence. And Frederick Rand Rogers introduced me to Pilates back when Pilates was 80 years old. He had a gymnasium in 57th Street and 8th Avenue. And the reason Joe Pilates got to America during the war, he was encamped in, I think in Britain, during the epidemic of...
The polio epidemic?
Huh?
The polio epidemic?
No, not the polio. It was, what was the epidemic there? The big one, the plague that was going through Europe at that time.
Okay.
And while in camp, he had the retainees there doing his physical activity, and also the guards, and nobody at that, influenza.
Okay.
Nobody at that time came down with influenza. So on my introduction to him, I was going 3 times a week from 6 o'clock in the morning till 8. And Pilates only put me through his floor exercises. He had 120 floor exercises. And he wouldn't advance you to his machines, his
reformer and Cadillac, yeah.
Until after a year that I was there.
Wow.
But he was had a.
So you were taking it for yourself. Were you starting to put your patients through it as well? Through some of the Pilates?
After I was trained for 2 years, and almost all my patients had, I put them through the basic training of Pilates physical fitness.
Okay.
And the reason Pilates got to America was through Max Schmeling, who was the German champion prize fighter.
Right.
And at that time, he was coming to America to fight, I think, Joe Louis. And he asked Pilates to come with him to train him.
Okay.
Help him in his training. And during that time, Pilates said, well, if you'll get me a studio in New York, I'll come with you.
Okay.
And that was the studio that I trained in on 57th and 8th Avenue.
So did you actually have one-on-one with him?
I had one-on-one during the 2 years that I was with him. Because of Frederick Rand Rogers, he never charged me anything at that time because he knew not only was I a chiropractor, but I was going to extend his work to my patients.
So how much did he talk about the breath? Was that something that he would, the breathing, the breath? Because Pilates breath, I know from my experience.
All his exercises, he used your brain. You had to think through all your exercises. You just didn't do them and not think what you were doing. So every exercise was very important in breathing.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't breathe properly, you couldn't oxygenate your muscles properly. But he invented all the equipment that was there. The reformer he invented himself.
Through hospital equipment, because I know from the camps.
Yeah, he had
all the spring systems they were using.
Yeah, the same spring system that they use today in reformer, the resistance. And he was he was involved in the circus at one time. So
Right.
he had special equipment that he could hang and balance from bars. He also invented his bed. His bed turned into a gymnasium.
Right.
He would released
That was the
tension
Cadillac.
in the mattress so he could exercise, and he had bars on either side.
Yeah. So anything you remember about his personality?
His personality was unbelievable. He did the original anatomy charts from his own body, all the muscles, all the bone structure on charts. He had a crazy thing of drinking, I think, a quart of cognac every day.
Oh my goodness.
He smoked I don't know how many cigars.
Really?
But because he exercised every day, he was able to get rid of the toxins, I guess, that those things cause, because he was in phenomenal, at 80 years old, he had, you could pick out every muscle in his
That's
body.
like you now.
Ah, thank you. I wish I was half of what Pilates was. But the key in Pilates was not to be a weightlifter, not to be a fitness crank, but he believed that you should have full range of motion of all joints of your body and yet have the muscles when you needed them to contract. And he believed in not lifting weights, but using your own body as a resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And being that all your exercises in the beginning were floor exercises, he never had a problem with back troubles, because the minute you started in any kind of pain, you relaxed and you didn't have gravity against you.
Right.
I lost contact with Pilates after he was 83, and I think while he was in New York at the age of 86, because I got a funeral notice from his wife, who also participated and helped in his clinic. He was hit over the head by somebody who wanted to rob him, and he had a concussion and never came out of it.
Oh, wow.
But in my practice, almost every patient had the advantage of some of the basic Pilates that they could use to help their back, keep it stronger. A lot for sciatic neuritis, which he had specific exercises to relax the piriformis on the sciatic nerve coming out of the low back.
So just going back to who he was, what was his instruction like when he was instructing you on a mat exercise? Was he very encouraging? Was he very militaristic in his explanation? Like, what was his personality like?
He was very encouraging to the effect that you had to do the exercises exactly as the Pilates system was,
Mm-hmm.
and you wouldn't graduate to the next difficult exercise until you were doing the basic floor exercises.
So he was very specific in your ability to complete each level properly before he would advance
Exactly.
you.
Very important to do that so you don't hurt any part of your body. And his exercises work your entire body on every exercise that you do.
Yeah.
It's not as specific for low back, for lower legs, or upper. Every exercise brings in every muscle almost in your body.
So very integrative to the whole
Definitely.
body. Anything else about Joe Pilates that people would want to know about that might not know about him?
Well,
Or
just understand that if you are going to take any Pilates courses, to make sure that your instructors have trained under a certified licensed Pilates teacher.
there's a lot of bastardization of Pilates out there. There's so many different schools now, and people are doing Pilates for fitness, which he would probably be spinning over in his grave about, because it's not about getting a cardiovascular workout.
Correct.
But some people are so addicted to that the pure Pilates method, which is what really he developed and designed. I think there's few schools that really teach what he taught and believed
Exactly.
in.
So if anybody is looking for Pilates, I would go with the genuine Pilates technique, at least until you understood it and felt it before you go into any other additional things that the instructors are doing with the Pilates exercises.
All right, so Jay, you're in Israel now full time. Are you still practicing and seeing
Yes,
patients there?
I don't practice like I did because I practiced for 55 years before I retired. But in 1979 and 80, I practiced in Israel for a year. I had about 5 offices throughout the country. And beside my chiropractic, I always worked in Pilates exercises. Not his full course, but enough that the patients could benefit and go on to Pilates. Pilates is given in Israel, and is very popular exercise that is available to the public.
Sounds good. All right, well, I appreciate this time. If you see the resemblance here, is my pops. Really appreciate the interview. Great job, and we'll see you in Israel.
Thank you, Brad, and good luck to all your patients that are able to get Pilates genuine from your clinic.
Thank you.
God bless you.